Let me tell you something nobody tells you growing up. The people who seem to command a room, the ones others instinctively listen to, defer to, wait on, they're not doing it by talking more. They're not doing it by being louder or more confident or better dressed. They're doing it by doing less. And I don't mean that in some passive zen, let things come to way. I mean, they have learned something specific about how the human brain assigns authority. And once you see it, really see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. In meetings, in conversations, in the way your boss holds a pause before answering, in the way certain people just seem to carry weight without explaining themselves. This video is about that mechanism, what it is, where it comes from, and why most people accidentally work against it every single day. But before we get into it, if you're new here, hit subscribe and drop a like on this video. It takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps this content reach people who need to hear it. Okay, let's get into it. Niccolò Machiavelli spent his career watching rulers. Real ones. The kind who made life and death decisions, who survived palace intrigue, who held power in conditions where one miscalculation ended careers or lives. And what he noticed wasn't what most people expect. He didn't write about charisma. He didn't write about kindness or fairness or popularity. He wrote about perception, about positioning, about the psychological gap between what a leader says and what people imagine about them. His observation was simple. A ruler who explained himself too much revealed his fears. A ruler who spoke less than expected became harder to predict. And harder to predict meant harder to challenge. That's not manipulation. That's pattern recognition from someone watching how human social hierarchies actually work, not how we wish they worked. And here is the uncomfortable truth. That same pattern plays out in every room you ever walk into. I want you to think about someone you probably know. Maybe it's you. He's smart. He works hard. When he makes a decision and someone questions it, he explains his reasoning. When someone criticizes his approach, he defends himself clearly and logically. When someone doubts him, he pulls out evidence. He believes that if he's transparent enough, people will see the truth and respect him for it. But something strange happens. The more he explains, the more people question him. Not less, more, because his constant explanation starts to read as defensiveness. And defensiveness reads as uncertainty. And uncertainty, to the human brain, reads as low status. He thinks he's demonstrating confidence. But what he's actually signaling is, I need you to agree with me. And the moment you need something from someone, the dynamic shifts. Not always dramatically, but enough. This isn't a flaw in his character. It's a flaw in the model he was given about how communication works. Here's the first belief worth examining. We're taught that honesty earns respect. And in the moral sense, sure, honesty should earn respect. But in the social sense, constant openness has a cost. When you share everything you think, everything you feel, every intention behind every decision, you remove something valuable from the equation. Uncertainty. Uncertainty isn't bad. Uncertainty is actually what makes people cautious around you. When someone can't fully predict how you'll respond, they slow down. They consider. They treat you more carefully. When they know everything about you, your fears, your reasoning, your need for approval, they lose that caution. I'm not saying become a liar. I'm saying understand that strategic restraint is different from dishonesty. Choosing not to share everything isn't the same as deceiving anyone. A lot of people build their social strategy around loyalty. They're faithful. They're consistent. They assume that because they've been reliable, others will protect them when things get difficult. Machiavelli had a cold observation about this. Loyalty exists while it's convenient. That sounds cynical, but look at the history of any major organization, corporate, political, social, and you'll see it play out constantly. When power shifts, alliances shift. When circumstances change, loyal people suddenly discover new loyalties. This isn't because people are secretly evil. It's because loyalty is emotional, and emotion responds to pressure. Position, your actual leverage, your actual usefulness, your actual irreplaceability, responds to pressure differently. People who understand this don't become paranoid. They just stop building their sense of security on something that's inherently fragile. Being liked feels powerful. When people laugh at your jokes, agree with your ideas, and speak well of you, it feels like you have social leverage. But popularity is downstream of something else. And when that something else changes, when your status shifts, when circumstances change, when someone more interesting enters the room, popularity follows it. Real social authority doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being observed, from being the person others are watching to see how they'll respond, from being the person whose silence carries weight because it's rare. The loudest person in the room is almost never the most powerful person. The person everyone's glancing at, quietly, sideways, that's a different thing entirely. Transparency builds comfort, and comfort is nice. But comfort and authority aren't the same thing. The human mind assigns status partly based on mystery. Not deception, mystery. The feeling that there's something beneath the surface you haven't fully seen yet. When everything about a person is visible and knowable, your brain categorizes them quickly and stops paying close attention. They become background, familiar, predictable. When someone holds something back, not manipulatively, just selectively, your brain keeps them in the foreground. You stay slightly alert, slightly curious. That alertness, in the psychology of social dynamics, reads as respect. This one's subtle. And I want to be careful here, because I'm not arguing against being a good person. I'm pointing out that if your behavior is entirely governed by rigid moral rules that are visible and predictable to everyone around you, someone who doesn't share those rules can use them as a roadmap to your responses. If people know you'll always be fair, they know exactly how to frame requests to take advantage of that. If people know you'll always explain yourself, they know exactly how to prompt that explanation. Being principled is good. Being predictably principled in ways others can exploit is a different thing. The solution isn't to abandon your values. It's to stop broadcasting every internal rule you operate by. So if those 5 beliefs are unreliable, what replaces them? A few things practiced consistently. Controlled silence. When someone says something you don't immediately agree with, don't rush to fill the air. A pause. A real one, not awkward but deliberate. Does 2 things. It gives you time to think, and it signals that you don't feel pressure to respond immediately. People who respond instantly often seem reactive. People who pause seem composed, strategic ambiguity. You don't have to hide your intentions entirely. You just don't have to announce them in full detail. Let some of what you're thinking remain incomplete. Not because you're being sneaky, because sharing partial information is a natural part of how thoughtful people operate. Reputation over defense. Stop explaining your value in arguments. Let your track record do it. When someone challenges your credibility, resisting the urge to defend yourself and instead just continuing to act consistently is far more effective than any counter-argument. Calculated response. React less. Respond more. Reaction is emotional and fast. Response is deliberate and measured. One signals that others have control over your internal state. The other signals that you do. Information as a resource. Not everything needs to be shared immediately. Not because information is a weapon, but because sharing it strategically, at the right time, in the right way, means it lands with more weight. None of this is dramatic in the moment. That's what makes it interesting. You pause before answering. You decline to over-explain a decision. You respond calmly where someone expected emotional defensiveness. You keep something back when the instinct is to share everything. Small, subtle, But over time, the people around you start to adjust. They speak more carefully in your presence. They stop testing you so often. They start watching your reactions the way they watch a weather forecast, looking for signals. Because you've changed the perception structure of the room, not by demanding authority, by behaving in ways that make others quietly assign it to you. That's the mechanism. Not magic, not dominance. Just consistent psychological signaling, practiced until it becomes natural. Here's what happens when you actually start applying this. You begin to notice it everywhere. In how people talk in meetings. In who everyone glances at when the group needs to make a decision. In how the calmest person in a tense conversation ends up guiding its direction. And you start to see the people who are taught what you are taught. Be honest, be open, explain yourself, earn trust through transparency, working against themselves constantly, giving away leverage they don't know they have, filling silences that would have worked in their favor. Once you see this, you can't unsee it, which is slightly uncomfortable, because it means the social world operates on different rules than the ones most of us were handed. But here's the thing. Understanding this doesn't have to make you cynical, or cold, or manipulative. It can just make you more intentional. You start speaking less, but what you say carries more weight. You reveal less, but what you reveal is more considered. You stop chasing approval, which, paradoxically, makes people offer it more freely. You become someone who operates from a stable interior, not reactive, not defensive, not performing. And that stability reads as authority in ways that no amount of explanation or justification ever could. You're not trying to control people. You're just stopped letting every internal state be visible to everyone in the room. That's not manipulation. That's maturity. If this framing resonates, if you find yourself recognizing these dynamics in your own life, subscribe to the channel and drop one word in the comments. Strategy, not as allegiance. As acknowledgement that you're starting to look at human behavior as something to understand, not just something to react to. One last thing worth saying plainly. This understanding changes how you move through social environments. It changes what you notice in conversations. It changes how you interpret silence and eye contact and who speaks first. But it doesn't have to make you suspicious of everyone. It can just make you clearer, less easily rattled, more in control of yourself, which is the only control that's really yours anyway. The world has always operated on these patterns. You just weren't looking at them directly before. Now you are.